Good morning and welcome to this Friday's episode of Inside Workplace Wellbeing. I'm so delighted this morning to be joined by Tania Gerard. And we are talking about a subject that's very close to my heart, supporting people with neurodiversity in the workplace. I am going to let Tania introduce herself, and I'd like you, and you're welcome, first of all, Tania, you're very welcome to this episode. It's an absolutely, as I say, a topic that I'm so delighted to be bringing on.
Thank you so much.
We're live. So could you start maybe by introducing yourself and your role, like let's say with the work that you do related to ADHD and the whole neurodivergence piece?
Absolutely. So I'm Tania and I am a neurodiversity trainer and accessible marketing consultant. I'm a podcast host of ADHD Founders and Phil, which I do with my co-host Kate Whitley. And I'm an ADHD and autism advocate and keynote speaker. So I provide marketing support and neurodiversity workshops to educate and advocate about neurodiversity in the workplace, what it looks like, the challenges, communication preferences, hiring processes, the legislation involved, how companies can improve their marketing to accommodate for WCAG, which stands for Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. And I think having an understanding of neurodiversity, it's so important because just from this year, the government in their March report stated that there were 21.6% of the UK population is neurodivergent, which, to be honest, I think it's a load of bull. I think it doesn't cater for the undiagnosed neurodivergents. So in my personal opinion, I think it's double. So guaranteed there is a neurodivergent in your working team. You might have a friend, you might have a family member in that circle, right now who might not have found their voice to speak up to about the challenges they face every day. And I think that's why it's so important to be kind to everyone, because you don't know what people are going through, whether they're neurodivergent or neurotypical. So that's what I do.
Yeah, and when I go into workplaces as well, it's something that I love to share as well. The helping people realize, especially when I do teamwork, is that whilst we don't have to know like what's in everyone's subconscious, when we lead from a certain way, when we're empathic, compassionate, and all these things, and just not judging all the time, not defining people by when we're more inclusive like that we really cater to everyone. So, Tania, what drew you to this field? And, can you share maybe, do you have any personal experience with ADHD that has shaped your understanding?
Absolutely. So I have ADHD and autism to begin with. And my previous career was in the very busy, very creative world of marketing, digital marketing to be more specific. And through my career, going from digital assistant all the way to head of digital, I learned a lot about marketing, but I really struggled with my disabilities and, like this in terms of the social norms, working environment, there was no education or support. And I went through really chronic burnout, depression, social anxiety, all while masking, which I'll discuss later on. Everyone thinking I was at the top of my game. And one day I had enough. So I left my last agency, where I was head of digital, and started to learn more about my ADHD and my autism with like a more clearer, more mindful space that I created for myself. And then I combined the love of the marketing industry, I absolutely love marketing, with my neurodivergence, and created Tania Gerard Digital. So we assist companies in all industries, employees and employers in those teams across the UK, how to talk, how to communicate, what neurodiversity looks like, and what they can do for their team as well.
Wow, that's a wonderful story. And, there's nothing like the lived experience, is there?
No.
There really isn't, because I was in law as well for 20 years, which a lot of people don't know about me. And when they see me now, I'm doing wellness, but like my lived experience also, well as the recession knocking me out of law, but like some experiences I had, one not being so nice in the workplace. And it is that has brought me to where I am now. So it's great when we're living our life experience in some ways, because one of my teachers used to say, there's always someone one step ahead of you in some area of your life, whilst then there's people that are one step behind you. So when we can, work with people from what we know, and especially when you lived it, you really understand the how people feel, and as we'll talk about the masking later, but like that's a big topic, when you can really resonate with how someone feels, even though they look like they have it all. So fair play to you. That was a big leap of faith as well, wasn't it?
Yes, it was because of what I was going through as well. The self-esteem, it didn't exist. So that was a real journey to almost climb up that tree of myself. I know it's a weird analogy, but it was finding myself again. It was saying, it was breaking it down into a mind map as well. So I was like, what do I care about? What am I passionate about? What am I struggling with? What do I wish was out there in today's society today? What is the support? And then I merged my two loves of marketing and neurodivergence and what I'd learned, and realized I wasn't alone. It's a huge untapped market of support. Neurodiversity, it's a trending topic. I'm doing bunny ears because it shouldn't be. I don't like the label trending. It's so many people have been undiagnosed, and the diagnoses are coming out. So it's making people more aware, and this is part of history as well. We're making history right now. We're making the future better by providing that education, for advocating it, to make the future generation a more happier generation, a more fulfilled one, a more safer. They feel safe in the working environment specifically as well, and to actually be able to communicate with their managers and directors and not feel that stigma that we still unfortunately have today.
And really, from my own personal experience, from a member of my family that has a ADHD inattention as well, is that there's often ADHD, I think, is often misunderstood, especially in social interactions. So how do you think the ADHD impacts the whole social communication process? And just before I say that, actually, I'll bring it back to my personal experience of it, is where I think the way that, like, the person that was, like, say, doesn't fit into a box, that a teacher wanted to put somebody into a box, but there was no box to fit this person. So I kind of talking loosely because I don't want to be naming people, because I haven't got permission to do that. But I wouldn't blame the teacher, because the teacher is going from her experience and may not have the actual tools. So the misunderstanding, let's say, that this child needs to stand up when they need to stand up, they're not trying to be disruptive. It's just who they are. So how, like this misunderstanding, talk me through that a little bit in your experience with it.
So first off, I was diagnosed with ADHD purely as a child, and I had this is late 90s, early 2000s. The label problem child was still around. It's still muffled in classrooms today. Apparently, I was told recently, which makes me really sad, because I hoped we'd have moved on from that label. And then diagnosed with autism as an adult. So it's and when in those social environments, in school, in the workplaces, we are very heightened to body language and tone of voice. So before you even say anything, we're already very sensitive and alert to these areas. And I think they really they help us gauge the conversation. So, but we have issues, you know, with the likes of like inattention, irrelevant stimuli. So I think attention in conversation, we can find it difficult to stay engaged. We have an impulse to interrupt. And this, I can assure you, is not because we are being rude. It's actually the complete opposite. We are engaging with you. We're engaging with what we're saying, what you're saying. And we've found that spark of dopamine to continue that engagement in the conversation with you. And I think the social communication challenges that are associated with ADHD, they're very layered, like a cake. And they can create, you know, barriers in relationships, in social interactions, and it can come across as inattentive, impulsive, rude. And these behaviors are often a result of neurological differences. They're not intentional, to disregard social norms, you know, and understanding these challenges, you know, it provides support. It can provide that positive and meaningful connection for those with ADHD. And there is so much to this area that I could and have talked about for hours. But I think the rudeness, the inattention, the kind of, if I was spinning a pen on a table while talking to you, some people might think, you know, like, I'm talking to you while you, that's part of the rudeness. And it's like, no, I'm actually creating stimuli for myself to actually hone in my concentration to hear what you're saying. So I think they are the kind of the most obvious, the most talked about social interaction misconceptions with ADHD. But I can go on as well.
Yeah. And, you know, that makes me think about, you know, the phase we had a couple of years ago, the fidget spinners.
Yes. Yeah.
But there again, you know, it just became kind of nearly like a farce. Sorry for saying that. Like, it's just everybody seemed to have one, and it like, did that sort of take away from the fact that the purpose? Yeah.
Yeah, because it was deemed as a toy, not as an enhancement tool, which is what part of the marketing should have been. It turned into a toy craze, a kind of must-have for children. So it completely wiped the purpose of a neurodivergent stimuli endorsement to actually help someone's life, not just play around with it. So I do agree with the veil. Yeah,
taken away from it, exactly. And then that phase went. So what happens then? You know, if someone has one now, I can only imagine that other kids will laugh and say, oh, fidget spinners went out years ago, you know.
Exactly. It's a craze. Yeah, exactly. It's a toy craze. It's not a neurodivergent stimuli enhancement tool anymore, which does make me very sad. Because they can help, and they have helped children and adults in the workplace as well. But sadly, there is now this veil of this perception of what it is versus what it should be.
So would you say maybe that's one of the common misconceptions about ADHD as well, that you encounter both like in professional and social contexts, that, you know, this is now not, this tool, whilst it's very good, it's been wiped.
I think it should still be used. If you feel like it helps you in your day-to-day life, then I think you should use it. I would never say, oh, don't use a fidget spinner just because of the craze. Like, if it genuinely helps your life, if it improves your life, if it improves your concentration and your anxiety, then use it. You know, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, to be honest. Like, it's your life. You are helping and enhancing your life with this tool. So I'd say go for it. But in terms of what you've just asked, in terms of like professional and social like misconceptions, there are a few kind of statements that I hear a lot. And I think one of them is it's ADHD is an excuse for laziness.
Mm.
And the reality of this is that, let's go to brass tacks, which is ADHD is a neurodevelopmental disorder. It is a disability. It is anatomy that affects how the brain processes information and controls that person's behavior. You know, it's not a matter of choice. No one woke up one day and say, oh, I'm going to be a bit of ADHD. No, it's part of your DNA. It has been passed down to you through your DNA. And it's people with ADHD, just like myself, like we often work harder than others to just achieve the same results, you know, even if our struggles aren't always visible. And I think another one is that it's overdiagnosed, like we just touched on. So it's there's so many that have been undiagnosed. The diagnoses are coming out, you know, it's something that people had the right to have all their lives. And the improved awareness, the better diagnostic criteria, you know, it contributes to more people seeking assistance for their ADHD, and the condition is often still missed or misdiagnosed, as we well know in the UK especially, you know. And individuals with, you know, primarily inattentive systems, medication when used appropriately, you know, mindfulness, which I know you're a professional in, you know, is one of the just a few tools that you can help manage your ADHD systems, like the fidget spinners, you know. And it's not the only options available. And I think the final big one that I always hear a lot about is ADHD medication is dangerous. Now, I am going to be very honest, very transparent, as I normally am, which is I'm not on any ADHD medication. I've only ever had medication for it when I was a child, and it was Ritalin, and it was about 3-4 weeks. And the word zombie is the best way I can explain it. All my personality went, my energy went, like I couldn't focus, my eyesight was blurry, like I looked like a drunk child in the classroom walking home. My appetite wasn't there. So I've had that unfortunate poor effect, and I've never had medication as an adult. But I would say that I have heard so many good, amazing, life-changing success stories about it. And they really can dramatically improve symptoms for many people, because it helps regulate that brain chemistry, and it can improve focus. It can help impulse control. It can help working memory to its natural neurotypical ability. And these stimulant medications they're very closely monitored by doctors. And they do ensure that they're used safely. There's also non-stimulant treatment options, which is my personal preferred choice. So I do a lot of mindfulness, I do journaling, I have a word called processing, which is where I'll talk to my partner and just talk at him while processing, and then I'll say at the end, this is what I was actually trying to say. So there are many non-medication options, but I think saying that ADHD medication is dangerous for others who are, some journaling and communication might not work for everyone. Some people really need that medication. So trying to move away from that stigma and just say that it is that person's choice and it is their right to choose medication or non-stimulant medication is completely up for them. And it's very damaging when someone says that, because it's their choice, it's their life choice, and no one should be telling you what you can and cannot do with your own body.
And I love that. And I think one thing that I took from that especially is around, you said you speak to your partner, you talk at him. So that to me is support. And I think that that's what can be lacking. And sometimes, like, again, as I say, going back to maybe a teacher who doesn't have these skills. I wouldn't put any blame on people, but I think I can only imagine that having someone supportive with you, or just to have a safe space for you to just be yourself, must be amazing.
I'm very lucky. I am very lucky. I've had to kiss a few frogs, as they say, but I have found someone who I am also seeing symptoms of neurodivergence in him, and he hasn't been assessed, and we have been talking about assessment a lot recently. So I think we're going to move forward with it, which is very exciting for both of us. But I think, you know, we're all humans. You know what I mean? Like, whether we're neurotypical, whether we're neurodivergent, we're social creatures by habit. We need community. We need to talk to people. You know, when we're inside our own heads, like, that's the only voice we hear. So we need that other brain, that other human to give us that different perspective, that different mindset, so we can create a more knowledgeable outcome and decision for ourselves.
Yeah, so that kind of brings me on to sort of asking you, why do you think that policies and protections for individuals with ADHD or any of the other neurodivergent, like autism and whatever else we're talking about, you know, it's a bigger spectrum, especially in schools and workplaces, and why are they lacking protection for people when, especially as you gave a statistic of 21.6% of the UK population, even though I know you said it's a figure that you might not agree with, but like, why is there not being more done to support this high number of people that are being diagnosed with neurodivergent symptoms?
I think that is a very big question.
It's a very big question.
It's a very big question. But I think there's several reasons. I think straight off the bat, I think believing that ADHD is simply a behavioural problem rather than a neurodevelopmental disorder, a disability is one. I think the invisible nature of ADHD, and what do I mean by that? I mean the heavy masking that we do. So some of our audience might not know what masking is. So masking is when people with ADHD other neurodivergents, they hide and suppress their symptoms, in order to fit in with societal expectations, you know, avoid stigma, prevent negative reactions from others. So people with ADHD may mask their symptoms in various ways, such as suppressing impulsivity, forcing themselves to focus, you know, mimicking the behavior of neurotypical people, all while struggling internally with their condition. So it's in the short story is pretending to be someone that the people around them need. So in the workplace, you kind of suppress and mask, quite literally mask your condition to be the person that they need in the workplace. So it's a very hard area of being neurodivergent, because we're basically saying we cannot show our true selves. We have to be the person that you need, not be our own selves. But back to policies and protection, you know, typical ADHD off the bat. I think there is some very rigid structures in terms of the workplace and the school system. I think there's a crossover because, you know, for instance, having rigid timescales in meetings and classes, you know, having to concentrate hard on people when they discuss a certain topic or trying to teach you something, you know, strict schedules, generalized standardized standards for everyone, you know, one rule fits all. So I think moving on, there is a limited expense. So it's my postman in the workplace. He's a lovely guy. For neurodiversity, you know, education, typical ADHD. Hello, postman.
Yes,
to
that's
learn,
okay.
to you know, to learn and to understand, and you know, then action small changes that can genuinely change someone's life. So I think, you know, moving on to the law part of the question, I think in terms of the education system, now I only know so much. I am not here saying that I am a specialist in the education system. I am corporate, but I have experience as a school child.
Absolutely.
And I am aware of some laws, and I have spoken to some SEND parents recently as well. So what I do know is that many students with ADHD are entitled to support under SEND. What is SEND, Tania? It is special educational needs and disabilities, and they have entitled support to these provisions. And schools are actually required to provide these accommodations to help them succeed. And these, you know, these include education, health and care plans, which are EHCPs. And these are legally binding contracts, documents outlining the specific support a child with ADHD should receive. However, the reality is a little bit more complicated. So with this, it is a very slow process.
Yes.
Obtaining it in the EHCP. I have been told it is very lengthy, very difficult. With parents of neurodivergent children, they need to frequently to advocate persistently to secure adequate support. You know, some families face very long waiting times for assessments, or you know, struggle with schools that are unfortunately reluctant to initiate the process. And I've been told as well, when students are granted this EHCP, schools may not always implement the recommendations effectively, and this can be due to many things, not just black and white. It can be, you know, resource constraints. It can be the lack of training among those staff, you know, or varying attitudes towards ADHD. You know, not everyone has the same opinion of ADHD. So some schools may not recognise ADHD as a condition that requires specialised support. And the level of understanding varies significantly across educational institutions. But I can also talk about the workplace, which I do know more about. So under the Equality Act of 2010, ADHD is considered a disability. If it has substantial and long-term impact.
Is that an English law? Sorry for interrupting you. Is that an English law that you quoted there?
It is. It is an English law. I do apologise. I think it's across Ireland, but I would have to double check that. I know okay. It's definitely in England.
What did you call it?
The Equality Act 2010.
Okay.
So I definitely know it's for England, and I know it's in constitution to Wales. I'm not too sure about Ireland, but I do hope it covers Ireland.
Yeah, and I wonder actually, would there be any EU directives and all that? That's just something that I'll go down a
rabbit hole. Good to research. Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. But I think even, Tania, that these kind of conversations, they're hopefully that it's helping to educate people more on the misconceptions and the stereotypes of ADHD, because I know that the process in the schools, which when we're like our young people are the board managers of the future. So if we can educate at a younger age, at teenage stage, I mean, they're then going to be feeding in. So we are doing it for the future generation when we educate ourselves and educate our children that they're not.
Yeah.
I've worked with children for a long time, because this whole navigating how they feel is just, it's a passion of mine. Because I know it's like not to be able to verbalize what you feel, and when you can't verbalize it, then you don't fit into a box, and you're just kind of like, it can be very isolating for a child, and it can cause, you know, them, as you say, then they start putting on masks, they chip away pieces of themselves, and then, like, is that what we want? I mean, we talk about AI and robots, but are we doing the same to our children when we don't learn and help them take off their masks, be themselves, because they're the future people for the workplace? And like, yes, and even young people, like I'm talking 20, 22, that are entering the workplace, these people are wonderful. Yeah. They have so much to offer. I don't mean to say these people, it sounds like I'm bracketing, but I'm saying it in a very respectful way, because
no, I understand.
I have very personal experience of it. And yeah, I just think that there's the whole education piece is wonderful. So what other unique challenges do you think that neurodivergent individuals face in the workplace, as well as the sort of masking? Is there anything else that you have seen that affects them as well?
Oh, a lot. See, I'm literally having an ADHD moment right now where I'm literally processing so much all at once. Yes, you know, these challenges, they can affect performance, they can affect mental health, social interactions, overall well-being. You know, we have difficulty with time management, task management, misunderstandings and social engagements, emotional dysregulation. What is this? So this is the difficulty to manage stress, frustration, criticism in a professional manner. So it's the emotions and the emotional events that we can go through. You know, other challenges is stigma in the workplace, a lack of accommodations, fear of judgment and the consequences of, you know, high masking rates, burnout, and many career limitations, you know, depending where you are in life as well. It can limit your career options if you are in the midst of what I was in the past, like deep depression, anxiety, burnout, complete utter bloody exhaustion. It's career choices are very limited at that point when you can't even get out of bed to face life itself, or find it very hard to even take a shower. Like it is a journey, and there is light on the other side. If anyone is going through this, there is light. I am living proof. For starters, I'm alive, and there was a time I didn't plan on that. Without sounding too very dark for people, I do apologize, but it is the truth. ADHD can take you to a very dark place, but it can also bring you that light. It's a very hypocritical thing, ADHD. It can make you alive, but it can also have fun with it in a very, very dark way. So
yeah, wow. Take a moment to digest that. I mean, those things that you say, like the frustration, criticism, all of these layers.
Yeah.
And I'm just imagining here, because I know when I go into team dynamic workshops or whatever with this really, like, it makes me quite sad actually when I hear that, you know, because it has to really be. And you talked about the employee journey. For me, looking at this, like, what I think would be lovely to happen, and what I hope to, and what I like to share with companies as well, is that, and I'd love your thoughts on this as well. It's like, you start really from onboarding, don't you? And actually we start a little bit before that, like by bringing in an expert like yourself to do the marketing around how you are actually, like, what do you want in your team? Because we have to really highlight the uniqueness that someone that has a neurodivergent brain has, because it's not just all bad. wow, like if you had someone that can be hyper focused, we really need to I think a company really needs to look at what do they actually need in the employee that they're looking to hire. And
Yeah.
you know, it could be that they're and this is a mismatch sometimes between, because maybe a CV or the person is like whatever, like they're great customer service skills, they're brilliant people, but maybe that's not what the job actually that you're looking to hire for is about. Maybe you're looking for someone that's actually hyper focused. So actually by hiring somebody that has a neurodivergent brain, that's very honest about it, and by you including that in your job spec, isn't that just an amazing start to an employee journey? For me, I would see that as like a great way for the company to
Yeah.
support inclusion in the workplace, but also then to have an employee be very honest about who they are and to really have them working at their utmost. They're engaged employees and they're going to have higher productivity. I threw an awful lot out there, but as I say, it's just, I'm very passionate about this. So I suppose what I'm saying to you is the employee journey starts really far back, as in when you're starting to market what you're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, just touching what we just touched on, you know, like there are strengths, you know, that
Yes.
neurodivergent individuals, particularly those with ADHD, bring to the workplace. Now, I know we don't have all day, but there are some
What a pity.
really, I know, I could do it all day. But there are some really important strengths that I would like to discuss. So the first area is creativity. So I think it's one of the most notable strengths and the most one of the strengths that are talked about the most, which I absolutely love. So it's, you know, it's non-linear thinking. It's those non-linear thought processes which can really lead, and I'm getting excited while talking about it. Like
Yeah.
it's leading those creative solutions and innovative ideas that others might not even consider, you know, and this ability, you know, to make unexpected connections between concepts that, you know, these are really, really valuable in fields like marketing, design, the tech industry,
Yes.
the arts, like, you know, like drama production, acting, and it's where the flow, the energy, you know, really comes to life. The idea generation, you know, we'll have 5 ideas parked in the back of our heads while we're in the middle of a meeting, and for different angles, different concepts of the same idea, the same structure. And I think we have flexibility in thinking as well, you know, due to the sheer speed of our brains. You know, we're often able to switch perspectives really quickly, you know, and this allows us to adapt to changing situations or pivot
Yeah.
when faced with new information. Like we can go like that. Touching on hyperfocus that we mentioned earlier. So it's, what is hyperfocus? It is a very intense, very deep concentration on tasks that ADHD individuals are very, very passionate about. So when working on tasks that are genuinely engaging, that genuinely excite us, we can go into this state of hyperfocus, which allows us to work with exceptional attention to detail and productivity. And this can be really, really a massive strength in the likes of creative projects, problem solving tasks, you know, or areas, tasks, projects that require that innovation, that next level of creativity. But I will say that if you interrupt someone who is in hyper focus, like, bless your heart, you better have an escape room because
Really?
it's hard for our brains to focus on something on a day-to-day basis. So when we finally have that dopamine kick, that dopamine, like tunnel visioned, oh my God, I'm in the zone, like, let's get creative. If you interrupt someone, they will go from 0 to 100, because it's such an emotional state, because our brains, as I always say, are like bees in the head. It's very hard to concentrate on something. So when we finally have that concentration and feel like a normal person, it can be very emotional. So I think we bring high energy, you know, moving back onto strengths. We have high energy, we have high enthusiasm. This can be really infectious. You know, we love helping people, we love motivating others, pushing teams forward through high times of workload, stress. And we can provide that enthusiasm for like new ideas, projects. So we can be the joker in the room, you know, if you need that kind of step back and just, you know, learn to relax a little bit and take a deep breath. And, you know, we've got it all down. But also, if you want someone to be serious with you, we can have different hats in a split second. Like, we can be what you need, which is part of the masking, but also we enjoy helping people as well. I would also say another strength is resilience and adaptability, brushing on what we've just discussed. You know, we learn to manage a lot of challenges throughout our life, through childhood and adulthood. And we tend to cope well with uncertainty and sudden shifts in the workplace when we're masking. So when it's our everyday lives, when we have that less control, it can get a bit more of a heightened emotional experience. But when we're in the zone, when we're masking, when others need us, we can work very well under pressure with demands and priorities and problem solving under that pressure as well. And I think finally, a really big strength is empathy and the emotional intelligence that we actually have. You know, we possess very strong emotional intelligence, and the ability to connect with others on a much more deeper level. And this can be really effective in roles that require that relationship building, that mentoring, that understanding of the needs of clients and your team members. You know, we can be that go-to person that has that active listening, that will sit down, that will want to help you fix your problem. But even if you don't want us to fix it, we are there. We can listen to you. We can give sound advice, but we can also be silent and just listen and give you an ear. So, and that's just a few strengths, you know, that's not the whole list, but I feel like they are very important to educate and advocate. And it's, at the end of the day, as we both know, as we all know, that it's very easy to think about the negatives in life a lot more than the positives. And I feel like that needs, if we can, to change it. It's not going to be an overnight thing, but I feel like the more we talk about positives, the more good impacts that people, services, workplaces, you know, like everything that has a positive impact should be celebrated and not just pushed down and negativity risen up. I think positivity should be talked more about.
Wow, I love that. So one thing I will ask about that is that, do you find, is this a trait that is something that a lot of people with a neurodivergent brain have? And this is just your opinion, obviously, is that, like, yes, they have a very busy head and all these ideas. So I can just imagine someone that's sitting in a team, has all these ideas, but do they wait to be asked for their opinion if they don't feel that there's a, let's say, a culture of like inclusion? Because I just know someone that will always wait for the invitation. Is that kind of a general thing, or is it individuals are different?
I think it can be perceived as a general thing. I think everyone has experienced some sort of that in their lives. I think it's more of a personal aspect of yourself, though. It's more of kind of like your self-esteem, how you feel about yourself, your self-worth, how passionate you feel about standing up and saying that idea. So it can be part of your confidence. But also, when you're a neurodivergent as well, there is so much stigma, and sadly still in 2024 it's shifting, but it's still there. So I think specifically with neurodivergence, like it's very hard to say you have ADHD in the workplace, to feel safe to actually have that conversation. So when it comes to ideas, it's when we're thinking about all of that and then having an idea, it's very hard to speak up when you're not even being your true self in the workplace. But I think to answer your question officially, I think it is a general feeling, and it's a confidence thing.
Okay.
But I say screw it. I think say the idea, say it out loud. I think it's great. I think
it's very helpful, because I also do work in teams. I go to juvenile teams, and when I talk about rejection sensitivity, which is another biggie,
yes,
it's that, like, so there's two parts of that, I suppose, and I know we can't go down a rabbit hole with this because we're 45 minutes in already, but like see how and team managers can say, wow, I know it, I see that, because I talk about it broadly. I just mention these things, I don't label, but I bring them in just to help managers understand that, that there are individuals on the team that will fail an injury rather than be rejected, or that also will wait to be invited. It's not like they'll always put their hands up to take the goal or to take the penalty, because again, there's the lack of confidence. I just think and like when we take this then into the workplace, again, I think companies are missing out, and they're missing out on their productivity and their employee engagement by not being more open, and obviously sometimes managers need the training as well, because it can't just blame. I'm not blaming anybody. I just don't blame, because I think we don't know what we don't know. But when we start educating people more with these kind of conversations, and when we have people like yourself advocating, with the lived experience, I think we can help companies realize that there could be somebody on your team that actually has the solution you're looking for, but we need to be open and inclusive and allow that person the space and the safety to say what they want to say.
Absolutely.
Have the light bulb moments that will actually bring a project forward. That's probably what they need.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, some strategies that can help people, relating to what we were just talking about, some strategies that individuals with ADHD that can navigate both personal and professional environments successfully. I think it's having, and it sounds silly, but it's having that structured routine, like what you're going to know you're going to have for breakfast, like those timed showers, reviewing tasks for that day before, signing on to Teams or see everyone else go into the office, so having that structured mind, having that structured routine. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm going to say that right now, because it bloody isn't. It is, however, an ongoing process for yourself, which will in turn impact positively to other areas of your life, like romantic relationships, like relationships in the workplace, like family, like friends. And I think organizational tools can really help your ADHD in the workplace as well, like Trello and Monday.com. They've really helped me stay organized with my service and my clients at all, because they're at different stages of the processes of my services. So keeping on track is really, really bloody important. Set achievable goals, break those tasks down into what you absolutely must do that day. What is priority? What is important? What can wait till the afternoon? What is morning tasks or afternoon tasks? What add those due dates as well, add those deadlines to help you become more organized more effectively, because with our ADHD brains, when we have that deadline, our brain chemicals just like flutter and just like, right, okay, we have an end date, like we can't mess about with this anymore. Then the structure will slowly come through your brain automatically. It's a weird thing, but it's great. I'd say practice mindfulness as well. So app wise, I use Calm and Headspace, and I use Calm for bedtime stories. I used to be embarrassed, but now I'm not, because it's super soothing with the voice, with the stories, and it's like you feel protected at night almost, which with an ADHD brain, feeling safe in an environment, feeling safe around people is so alien to us. When we find it, we latch on really hard, because it's so comforting, and it's a natural comfort that neurotypical people have and don't even think about, but for us it's so crucial. And I would say finally, to help your ADHD, is limit those distractions. You know, if you need to leave the room, you know, don't make excuses, leave the room. You know, have noise cancelling headphones that can help concentration. You know, I find myself listening to classical music. I find it really effective with my ADHD and autism. You know, it has 0 vocals, it has instruments, and I find it really calming, and it keeps me alert on the task as well. So they're just a few things that can help your ADHD, some tips and strategies to help your ADHD navigate workplace and personal environments.
I love those. Oh my goodness, I've taken lots of notes.
Oh, good.
Yeah, because like I think that whole safety piece, like imagine feeling safe is so alien. That is a very, very big statement. I mean, you've made some statements that really stand out to me as quite like, feeling safe is a fundamental need we all have, and with so many people, it feels like every second child these days is being diagnosed, or maybe every third child, but there are a lot. So are all these people lacking in that fundamental need of being safe? I think it's incumbent on companies to really streamline and to look and to educate themselves, and to realize we have assets when we include everyone in society, because we're going to have them on our teams. We're going to have them, again, that is just sounded so terrible. We are going to have teams that are made up of neurodivergent and neurotypical people, and let's have the active listening that you also mentioned. Let's have the inclusivity. Let's allow people to take off their masks and shine, engaged employees, because at the end of the day, it's about the bottom line for the company. That's what they're in business for. So it's actually for their own benefit to really harness the wonderful strengths that people with ADHD or a neurodivergent brain have. And it's awful even using the word normal, because I hate that word when we're talking about this. We have neurotypical and we have neurodivergent. I did a course on it to help myself understand it more as well. I'm not an expert, but I love what I learned about these conversations, because the feeling safe bit is something that I'm walking away from going, that is so sad. That and it's something that I'll probably add more to my own programs when I'm going in with into teams, with juveniles, is that whole feeling of safety and tricks. Tania, if somebody wants to contact you to, come in and maybe do a call, it doesn't matter that you're in England, maybe you do it on Zoom, I don't know if you do or not, but like, how can people contact you should they want to know more about the work that you do?
Oh, absolutely. So you can email us at hello@taniagerard.co.uk. That is spelt TANIA. Oh, yes, absolutely. I will add it to the chat as well. Yeah.
And if you want to put it into the chat there, and I will, into the comments, should I say, and I will actually copy it, and I'll have it as a banner going across the screen, if that's not too much to ask you. I really have I loved this conversation. I know for a fact, as you're typing, I could keep talking to you forever about it. Well, I just see it. I mean, I see that. I see the benefits so much of being an inclusivity anyway, and I work a lot teach people a lot about coming from their values, and when somebody can drop their masks, dip into their values, and lead from that place. I mean, life for everyone, the person will benefit, but the whole world will benefit from having a person that's coming from such a wonderful place.
Absolutely. There's so many strengths to neurodiversity that are just not talked about, and there's such a massive gap in the market as well in terms of hiring processes, in terms of talent. I saw, and I know we need to go very soon, but
no, you've talked away. Yes.
I saw a statistic very recently, again by the government, by their March report this year, that said 16% of autistic people are in full-time paid work. That means the majority of autistic people are only in part-time or in volunteering, or are having like 0 contract hours, or are not hitting that threshold of full-time on a month-to-month basis. And I just sank in the sofa. I was like, how is this even possible? And it's because of the stigma. It's because of the lack of education and advocacy. And it's great to see the shift. But there's also, unfortunately, when there is something good, something bad comes with it. And I think there is so much unfortunate misinformation. I think there isn't enough legal protection in terms of neurodiversity trainers, in terms of ADHD coaches, that I've heard the title go around a lot recently. And someone could go tomorrow and just be like, I'm an ADHD coach, and that angers me, because you are literally working with people. You are working with people's brains who are neurodivergent. They need that official support. They need that educated, experienced person like myself who can say, I understand what you are going through. These are the steps you can take. You are in a safe space. You need that educated, experienced person to be like, I get you. You are safe. So I think there needs to be, at some point, some sort of law or legislation that blocks or tries to lower the level of this misinformation, because I've heard, unfortunately, recently some very horror stories of people pretending to know that they know everything and they don't, and like 0 qualifications. And I'm going off on a drift.
No, that's okay, but like, it's like that.
I'm very passionate about it.
Yes.
You're messing with people's heads. It's anatomy. We have different brain chemicals. We literally have a different structure. We literally have a different size prefrontal cortex, and it's just that if you don't know the scientifics behind why a person does what they do, you cannot effectively support them, communicate with them effectively, and give them what they need. So that's just an opinion that has angered me recently, but I think it's really important to put out there into the world.
I totally agree with you, and when I do mention the things that I mention with teams, I always say I'm not an expert. I just see that these things. So I think that, the way they say to have, for children especially, as I say, I'm a real big advocate for children. If you can have one good coach or one good person in your life, so if it's that coach that can kind of understand and give that safety, feeling safe to a young person, maybe that person then will actually get the confidence to take off their mask and maybe even approach their parents and ask them more, if they have somebody to support. And it's that thing again, when you said about the support you have, it doesn't matter who it is in your life. It's so wonderful when we have one good person in our lives, and they say that, don't they, whoever they are, that to have one good person in your life that you can connect with can be so,
it can change your life. It can really change your life in such a lonely world.
Yes.
Especially with full of technology these days, and it can, I think a lot of people feel more lonelier than ever, sadly, in 2024. So I think having that grasp of communication, that grasp of community, to bring it back to say life is too short we are humans. Let's figure this out. You are different. I am different. I have different needs. You have different needs. Let's figure it out. Let's see how we can do day-to-day life together as a community. And I know that sounds cheesy, but I don't really care, because there's millions of us on this island. And if all of us just said, how are you? No, how are you really? How are things going? I think that would not only change the UK, but it would change the world.
Yeah.
And it really is that simple. And I think a lot of people just complicate the world, and people are inside their own heads, and rightfully so, again, with technology and how things have developed. But for anyone that's listening right now, or watching this, or on replay, or whatever, just ask someone today, how are you? No, how are you really? Do you want to talk about it? Guaranteed you have made that person's day better. You might have even just saved their life and you didn't know it. So just ask.
I am so delighted we connected and that we had this conversation.
Me too.
We might come back and discuss something again in the future, because we both could stay here all day.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to join you again.
Thank you so much. And I really hope that people do reach out to you, because I think that exactly, it's about having somebody that has the lived experience, knows about the brain and how the differences is what's needed. And when we educate, we help. So let's get together and collaborate more like this, and talk more, and have our workplaces more inclusive, so that really we help the world change one small bit at a time. Isn't that what we all try to do?
Sounds good to me.
Thank you so much for being here today. It's an absolute pleasure to have you.
It's been an honor. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
I should see you again.
See you soon.